time.
All righty, welcome. It's fall. Fallballs happened or will be happening, depending on what schools. And it is now time for the grand tradition of all Crosse media to do a way too early top 20, despite us not really knowing anything of what's going on. So, thank you for joining us on YouTube live streaming or listening on your favorite podcast outlet. I'm Ryan. We got Jake and Safe. They're usually on way more consistently than I am these days, but we're all together tonight to do a little fun with the top 20 heading into the season.
Ryan wasn't going to be on, but then he saw a certain team wasn't ranked in the top 20, and he demanded to be included. The word stormed may or may not have been utilized.
Fight the steal. You know?
No, but we'll.
He said we needed some orange in here, so.
Yeah, it was a little ridiculous. I know this podcast can go a little bit extreme in feelings about Syracuse, but I thought that was a bridge too far on the initial draft, so I had to intervene.
It was just look. Listen, quarterfinal team ranked 8th. I don't see what's so extreme. I thought it was perfectly reasonable.
But yeah, so we'll chat all.
Listen. I was told was that the number 22 is very special to Syracuse lacrosse. I thought it'd be a good spot. I thought, that Syracuse fans would see it and be like, all right.
It would be just bulletin board material. Bulletin board material, right?
I will also point out that in regards to the last podcast, where that was the one time I have ever been gloatful about a team. No, I don't have any regrets about being gloatful about the Mets and then losing in the NLCS, because who cares? That was house money. And the fact remains that we beat the Philadelphia Phillies. So don't care. Great season. No regrets unless the Yankees win the World Series. So no regrets whatsoever. Sorry.
Do I apologize? Absolutely not.
Yeah, we beat the Phillies. Who cares? Yeah, we lost to the Dodgers. Probably everybody's going to lose to the Dodgers.
I can't wait till I can't wait till I quote tweet the Yankees winning the Yankee tweet celebrating and way to go, guys, for New Jersey, and Ryan just losing it. Just absolutely just losing it.
Was it true that Adams was at the Liberty rally?
Yes, he was.
Oh, that's so sick.
It was at the Al Smith dinner, right?
He might get he might commit a crime. He might start handing out cash at the Yankee rally.
That hat has to be found. The Yankee Mets hat.
Now, he's the same guy that when he was the Brooklyn Borough president, he neglected the fact that the Islanders played in Brooklyn. So I guess that might make him a real Islander fan. I don't know.
He should drop the. Many people say that Los Angeles is the New York City of California. That'd be sick.
New York is the Los Angeles. New York City is the Los Angeles of America.
But hey, we got New York's back. We had a ticker tape parade.
I think
that might get him back in. Back in the race for the re-election.
I think y'all in the on the Brooklyn, Long Island wing of the New York sports thing tier, divide. I think y'all need to just give up on this Nets thing and go all in on the Liberty.
I think Bomani said the same.
I think y'all need to be they said the Liberty weren't good enough for the Garden. Like they kicked him out to Westchester. They gentrified it.
This reminds me of the absolute inane take I saw this morning. The Mets are the team of the gentrification class. Be a real New Yorker, root for the Yankees. What?
God.
What?
New York sports takes infused with New York cultural issues is so good. It doesn't get better.
In what?
Yeah, I think y'all
is the Yankees not the gentrifying team?
Like nobody in nobody cares about the Nets. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, it's only for us Islander fans who hate MSG ownership of things.
They should move back to New Jersey.
They had a perfect home with the Prudential Center, but no, Jay-Z wanted
Safe can give Safe another team to root for.
Them are the Sixers. Them are the bring them over. I'm fine with either.
Who knows? The Sixers might be in Camden before you know it.
Safe just
I just enter LSD all the time.
Safe just on his bulletin board of pennant where he has the pennants of all the teams to root for. Just brings New Jersey Nets.
That means the Jets and Giants are your teams to root for because they are New Jersey. As every Bills fan on Long Island, 8 hours away from Buffalo, at a stadium that's 45 minutes away from the Canadian. 20 minutes away from the Canadian border, like to brag that they're the only team in New York, despite the fact that the team is further away than about 6 or 7 other NFL teams. But their justification for rooting for the Bills is they are New York's only team. Despite the Eagles, Ravens, Commanders, and Steelers all being closer than the Bills to New York City.
Does New York State come up when someone says New York? I just think New York City, very much.
Yeah, I mean,
for Bills fans,
after the Bronx, right?
I'll be honest, Ryan, not to kind of put a pierce a hole in your argument here. The whole Bills, New York, NFL, it kind of has big Syracuse, New York's college team vibes.
Well, Syracuse at least is one of top 3 popular college basketball programs in the city. It helps.
Of course.
It's us, Duke, UConn, St. John's when St. John's is good.
I think it's Duke. Probably is. At least it was,
Yeah, the ton of Notre Dame football, Duke basketball combo up here.
Oh, God.
We're digressing way too much for our way too early top 20.
That's disgraceful. Who do they root for on lacrosse? They went to those Notre Dame Duke quarterfinal games at Hempstead with the hat with
the Mayor Adams hat.
The Irish Blue Devil.
Irish Blue Devil.
Well, it depends on if they went to Chaminade or St. Anthony's and who's got more recruits going to them at that given year.
They wore a Kavanaugh jersey with Duke basketball shorts, and I vomited.
Oh, you went there! Oh no.
Yes, I vomited inside as I said that.
You went there after Safe's story of the Georgetown-Syracuse combo, right?
Safe's story about the Petro and the Syracuse basketball shorts is honestly one of my favorite things of all time.
It was a life-changing moment.
That's so sick. I want somebody to tell 2000 and what was that, Safe? 2002?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess 2002.
I want someone to tell 2002 Petro telling Safe in the Johns Hopkins University gym that 20 years later he would be wearing Syracuse colors. And this guy he's yelling at would be a a top 5 most well-known lacrosse media Johns Hopkins alumnus. Is that fair? Top 5 fair? I was trying to run through them in my head.
There's Quinn.
I got Quinn, Dixon. Now I'm blank. Does Zim count? Does Zim play at Hopkins?
Wasn't he Washington?
Just in the media? Yeah, Flynn and Dixon. They got the podcast. So.
That's 3. All right, Safe. Maybe we're running out of space fast.
You're not too generous. The way you just said that reminded me of this Jazz Chisholm story. Did you hear where he talked about Jordan asking Jordan for an autograph?
No.
He asked Jordan for an autograph when he was like 10 years old, and Jordan like just didn't have time. He's like, grow up and be good enough that I want your autograph. And apparently, like it just stuck with Jazz throughout these years. And then when he became a ball player, like he ended up signing with Jordan. So he's like, yeah, now I finally got your autograph or something. But that's our Petro moment. It's a Petro's like,
Denny Hamlin have
you never loudmouth that I have to hear you.
Wait, didn't Denny Hamlin have a similar story about that with Jordan as a kid, and then he goes on to own a race team with him or something?
Who doesn't have us? Everyone's got a Michael Jordan has fake Michael Jordan stories. Like, is that the whole thing?
Yeah.
So I told HW, win re-election, and then we can play golf.
You know, Barry's got a ton of Jordan stories.
Did you see that clip with Tyrese Halliburton and Obama talking about the All-Star game?
I saw a little bit of it. Like,
that was so good. Obama was like, "Man, y'all got to fix this All-Star game. This is it's shit."
Remember
dude.
how he?
And like how?
Yeah, remember how?
And Halliburton keeps trying to interject, and Obama just will not let him get a word in.
You know how we always, everyone's pushing like, you know what, George W. Instead of this presidential thing with Iraq and everything, why don't you become commissioner of Major League Baseball, fix up baseball, and get rid of ceiling? New proposal: we get Barry as president.
Barack Obama, NBA commissioner. I'm listening. This.
Dr. Rice did it right. Condoleezza Rice. I mean, like, just faded back, just sat on boards, does college football, plays golf.
I'm thinking of this. I think we give Adam Silver 2 more years, and if not, they slide Obama in there. I like that. Yeah. That's pretty beast. That'd be sick.
So tonight's theme, Fallball Top 20, because it's that time of year where every lacrosse media publication likes to stir up content and throw darts at a wall and or tell you the obvious. Bad news for this top 20. Wagner has not made the cut.
Maybe next year.
Maybe.
Did Wagner ever announce that coaching change? Just remember that. I think they did. I want to say they did.
But remember, you could always be like NJIT and make a splash early and become America's team until Army becomes good and hijacks the America's team moniker. But NJIT, the true
that potential Army Navy game at the end of the year, college football.
Oh yeah,
be big business.
And that's not for the college football playoff bid, by the way. It's completely independent. So they can't play each other in the American Championship. It's technically a non-conference game, and it's after the bracket has already been done. So have fun with that one, Condi.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be Anyhow, yeah, our top 20.
All right, so I guess let's talk, decide on who we want to put at the back end of the top 20. Do you guys want to go over the different tiers we have them in? Because there's 2 teams in the 16 to 20 that I could see making a swap out of some of them in the 20 to 25. You'll never believe which 2 I have a bone to pick.
All right. Yes. As I just tweet out this the link on Twitter, #promotion, #ad. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiers here. We've got Almost Famous, which is BU, Harvard, Albany, Richmond, Utah. We've got 16 to 20, which is our loitering and lurking tier. So, they're just kind of like hanging around the 7-Eleven. The cashier's kind of looking out like, should I go tell them to, they got to like buy something or leave, He looks like he's about to come inside. That's our 16 to 20.
This isn't a library. Five magazine.
11 to 15 is our pushing for the playoffs tier. 6 to 10, fixing for Foxborough, trying to target the Final Four. And 1 to 5 is teams with, dreaming of Memorial Day. So we've got like 5 or 6 teams grouped within these tiers. But they're kind of moving targets, so we can kind of, shift some stuff around as we kind of just deliberate. That was the fun we thought we'd have with this. You guys just get to react, to us putting it together live on air. You get to yell at us if you want. You get to throw in your suggestions if you want. So, have some fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys, as you see, if you don't think we're too high or too low, feel free. If you've got, any thoughts you have on our ranking as we're going through this, by all means, please share out. So, almost famous, I just mentioned BU, Harvard, Albany, Richmond, Utah. Do we want to make any of these folks famous?
I think Harvard and Albany, compared to 2 teams we'll talk about in loitering and lurking, I would maybe give consideration to.
Harvard does bring a lot back.
Yeah, I mean, Young, to lose Graham Blake to Duke, but Sam King, Teddy Malone, Logan App, Miles Bacchus, John Orant. We got a couple of young freshmen in there. A whole bunch of scoring. Goaltending could be a bit of a question mark. They were competitive-ish in the Ivy League. I mean, their 5 losses were all to top 20 teams a year ago. They also were all by multiple. They were by 2 to Yale, 3 to Princeton, 3 to Virginia, 3 to Penn, 7 to Cornell. This should be Virginia. Then Matt Noon scored a goal. That was rather ignominious. Yeah, I think you could. I don't know. I don't feel. I'm not itching to. I can see the path where they have a good year. They've got, again, talent on the offensive side of the ball. They beat Michigan, who, did obviously make the playoffs. I don't know though. I haven't seen them really punch, toe to toe with some of these, the heavy hitters, at least within their conference, the last couple of years. 2 years, I guess. They obviously made the tournament in 2022. I don't know. Will they be in the top 20 come like March? Probably. Yeah. Am I itching to put them in there above some of these teams above them? Not really. Ryan, the 2-year is Ohio State and North Carolina.
That is correct.
So Ohio State was, miserable to watch a year ago. No disputing on that account. But they did play a lot of, within the Big Ten. Maryland, Hopkins, Michigan. Again, we're sort of, picking from what was your best loss essentially with some of these teams? It's what did you kind of show us? Neither of these teams did a lot. But Ohio State showed that they had a formula and a style that allowed them to really give the better teams in the Big Ten a headache. They did it against Maryland. They certainly did it in the first 3 quarters against Johns Hopkins. Did they blow the lead against Michigan, or did they come back? What was that? That game had like a crazy finish. I can't recall if it was Ohio State was like behind and then like rallied to get. I think that was Ohio State rallied to like get within a goal, towards the end, and then Michigan hung on. But they were a real. Like they were a headache for some of those teams, and they as well bring a lot back. Now, is the offense going to be electrifying? I don't really think so. They were a terrific defense last year, and that's at least something you couldn't have said for them last couple years. Like, if we're looking at teams here, in this sort of range, that, as we said, kind of loitering, just kind of like looking around, you want to keep your eye out for that maybe could, be a threat, or at least maybe a danger, at least maybe not a threat, but a danger to some of the teams above them. I think there's more evidence on the Ohio State ledger than Harvard. Albany.
Yeah, Albany's a tricky one because, again, with the America East factor.
I mean, like, look, if they have a good season, they'll get in there. Are they a top 20 team? To start the year? I don't know, but if they
Richmond and Utah are intriguing as well as BU. I think they're all going to be intriguing to watch and see. Now, as we get into the top 20 here, I'm guessing that's going to be the argument for Notre Dame, not for Notre Dame, North Carolina. Geez, Notre Dame, that would have been a real content generator. But no, North Carolina, same argument. It's too much talent to leave out despite past returns. They're too talented to leave out, I guess, kind of in the direction of Ohio State with that.
Argument for Carolina is, I guess, just more comes from if you're really kind of looking at who are these top 20 teams, who you think, if I were, if you were to, you can't, none of these teams play the same schedule, but if you were to, if everybody played the same schedule, do you think North Carolina does better than you? Who do you think wins more games, North Carolina or Utah?
Maybe
like
Utah. But
I mean, perhaps, yeah, you might, but we kind of Utah played like Carolina, certainly within relative to their peers. I mean, look, and if you put them in the top 20, they're going to be the lowest ranked ACC team, and they'll be blank below probably I think 3 or 4 Big Ten teams. But and look, this is not I'm not the transitive property isn't the right way necessarily to rank these teams. But look, you saw Utah play Duke in the NCAA tournament, and there looks to be a fair distance between those two teams. You saw North Carolina play Duke towards the end of the year without Owen Duffy, and at one point was up by 8 goals. Like now again, of course, it's like, oh, well, like 5 games before that, it's like, sure, they are like, but they are playing they're playing a different, they're playing in a different, like they're on a different level of the apartment, complex, like they're, so I think if you're trying to, again, now if you when you get in the middle of the season and, Carolina's lost 5 games in a row, do you really need to rank them? No, I don't, like, if that happens to him. But if you wanted to, start out, and kind of, when you're looking at this, I think you can, argue that, they've kind of proven Carolina beat Penn last year. Another team that, is in, kind of this sort of range. A team, by the way, in Penn that has somehow seemingly, I think, their schedule has gotten harder.
Yeah, I saw that's an interesting thing. They added Notre Dame to the mix, which it's Penn. Penn's schedule is always a meat grinder to begin with, and it's like, you know what? We're already on legend mode. On MLB The Show. We got to put it to Hall of Fame mode now.
I mean, Penn is just like, this is, Penn is playing like, if we finish above 500, we're gonna make a tournament.
Just on RPI alone.
Like, they play at Georgetown, home to Albany, at Delaware, at Duke, at North Carolina, home to Villanova, home to Brown, home to St. Joe's, home to Dartmouth, at Cornell, home to Yale, at Harvard, home to Princeton, at Notre Dame.
Jesus. There isn't an easy game on that whole schedule.
There really isn't. I mean, the easiest base is like Brown or Dartmouth.
And Dartmouth was much improved looking.
Their non-con schedule is NCAA tournament team, Delaware, prior to this past couple years, NCAA tournament team, Duke, NCAA tournament team, North Carolina's an ACC team, Villanova's a top 20 team usually around. Oh, Villanova's another one.
Villanova, the traditional hanging around the 20th spot. They'll be 20th by end of February.
St. Joe's NCAA tournament team, Notre Dame national champion last 2 years.
Yeah, and even the Brown and Dartmouth games, as I said, Dartmouth's looked improved, and any Ivy League game is a potential trap game. So
that's a preposterous schedule.
Crab ragoon things.
I got one possible. How am I feeling on this? I'm gonna. Yeah, they kind of lose. Safe vibe check me here. Richmond in for Lehigh.
Yeah.
Like that's a possible. I know Lehigh made the tournament, and so it feels sort of, I don't know, maybe you kind of look at it, and when you look at it from that perspective, it might feel, I don't know, maybe cruel, but I mean, look, what Lehigh did last year was super impressive towards the end of the year. And obviously, I mean, they gave Hopkins a hell of a scare, come the end, in the NCAA tournament. But you lose Scott Cole, your best player, and they really just kind of, I mean, sort of rode a kind of hot streak in those close games. Richmond does lose some key pieces on the offensive side of the ball, but they still got some good, a lot of talent on that roster. And they were a really good team towards the end of the year, and they played some great games with St. Joe's. I don't think they need to be any higher. I don't think we need to do the whole if Richmond beats this team and that team, we got it. But I think, I feel like, if you ask me who's more of, again, a threat to maybe do some danger, at least at the start of the season, I might lean with Richmond over Lehigh.
I think so. I mean, you have more of a trajectory or trend of success with Richmond. Not again, as you said, not to take anything from Lehigh, but they seem like to just get super hot at the right time. Teams in the I don't think that they can't replicate what they did, but like again, it just seemed like a special moment for them. I just think that Chamada just has a good thing going, that he's going to be in it, or at least at the conference tournament championship almost year in, year out. So like just betting wise, in terms of like who I just have a little bit more trust in, I just think Lehigh is just more of a, not a sure thing, but yeah, just more of a proven product.
Yeah, Richmond, that's the other thing to tack on too. If you look at recent memory, Richmond's traditionally been a top 20 program the past 5 or 6 years. Lehigh is getting back to that spot. So I could go either way with that. If you want to give Lehigh the bump for, making the NCAA tournament, the hot end of the year, closing the deal in Patriot League play, or if you want to give it to Richmond because of them being more of a stalwart, I think either way works out fine. I think they're kind of both in that same gel of like 18 to 22.
And it was like a unique conference-wide collapse in the Patriot League.
Yes.
Like, again, no disrespect to Lehigh.
They won it. They did their job.
They almost took Hopkins out, so I got absolutely nothing but respect for the Mountain Hawks. But yeah, like the way Army just kind of collapsed, BU just kind of deflated at the end. Loyola did make a run when they kind of seemed like maybe get a little bit of a spark. It just seemed like everything kind of fell. Navy, like, they kind of weren't meant for the best. Is like it just perfect storm for Lehigh. Get hot, win the games that they had to. Again, all credit to them for winning it, but like it just seemed like the waters parted for them a little bit.
Yeah, the Patriot League went full Patriot League.
Oh,
it was absolutely like conference-wide collapse.
I mean, yeah, like was the A10? I think you arguing some of the top of the A10 was, better than the Patriot League. I mean, and look, we're looking at like St. Joe's, Richmond, Patriot League. You're looking at Army potentially, still in, and then Lehigh is the champion. But I mean, this is the first time, and I don't know how many times we're doing this. We don't have Loyola.
Yeah, Loyola's nowhere in the conversation. We don't have Navy in the conversation.
We got BU.
We do have BU, but
they're in there, and Holy always does a good job.
Yeah,
so,
BU will
yeah,
be
I think
in the
that
mix too. But I think so. I guess let's start filling this in.
Okay.
Do we want to?
I
don't know how much I trust UNC and Ohio State though. So would it be too blasphemous to put Richmond at 18 and then maybe Ohio State 19, UNC 20?
I would not. No, that's reasonable.
If you, Ryan, who would you want if you wanted to swap out Carolina? Who would you want to swap them out for?
If Richmond, well, I think we could swap Richmond with UNC if we want to keep Lehigh in. Because I think, again, North Carolina's the thing is, are we putting them in just because they have an ACC logo on their jersey? Or is it we're putting them in because, again, they had the potential to be good with the talent they're accumulating? The issue is, can they finally do it, given that the past 2 years they've had that talent and done nothing with it, the past 2 or 3 years?
I think it's yes. I think they have the talent to. I think they do, and also I think they probably are. Like, I think the thing is that they have probably been this exact range of team for 2 years. It's that they play a top 5-10 schedule, or they play a top 5-10 schedule the back half of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The front half.
And that's why they're outside the top 20, whereas like middle of the year they're in that 16 to 20 spot, I guess is the argument.
Yes, like by the end of the year they're playing these top and they're losing all of them.
And that's why they're not in top 20.
Yes, it's like BU is similar. Like BU has kind of lived in this range for 3 or 4 or 5 years in a row now, similar to Richmond. Also, part of me, this is just every time you think Bresci's done, he kind of he just kind of pulls it back a little bit, and I don't if they do pull it out. I don't know. I don't want to miss it. At least I want to say it was there. If so, I think 20 is fine. It's if they start flat, you can kind of maneuver them out. But I think you're right, Ryan. About like no, like Richmond, ahead of them. Yeah, I think that's fair. Ohio State is, I think, a similar story. Like, I think there's maybe some optimism, at least because of the defense, the way the defense played last year in their competitive Big Ten play. But also, like, look, their offense has been, was a problem, and like balance. Like, when was the last time you saw really a balanced kind of Ohio State? Like a couple years ago when they made the tournament, their offense was good, but their defense was kind of sagging. So, also Ohio State, you gotta listen, if you want to be Ohio State, like if you want to be a top team, Ohio State got to play just better on the road. I mean, so much of Ohio State's best performances in the last couple of years are home games. Like they play, and granted, like their one Big Ten win last year was at Rutgers, but I mean, we saw 2 years ago when they opened that stadium, the splits between how they played at home and how they played on the road were just insane. Like that home field for them I do believe is a real advantage. I think it's proven to be. I think because it's it's intimate, it's loud, and obviously having to fly out to. I mean, we've seen kind of look. I mean, we just know we've seen enough the Big Ten to know having to fly out to Ohio State or having to fly Penn State on those Sunday nights if you're like that's a tough trip. The Big Ten football has kind of shown this year that some of these long travel flights, can be, difficult. So I do think that's a legitimate advantage for them. I think, unfortunately, they've just not, weaponized it in any real way the last couple of years. If they can get going, I think it could really be something. But also, like, again, you want to be a team that's fighting for the tournament. I mean, you got to play well on the road. Like, you got to just do much better away from home. So, yeah, I think them at like 19 is.
So yeah,
also,
I've got the graphic up. So Richmond 18, Ohio State 19, North Carolina 20. So I guess Penn and St. Joe's. So the two Philly teams. Where do we want to slot them? I'm kind of leaning St. Joe's 16, Penn 17, because St. Joe's is, I think, a little bit more of a known commodity heading into the season. I think they're a little interchangeable.
Go with that. You can definitely go with that.
I would say. Now I'm thinking about St. Joe's. They lose a lot of talent on offense. Those guys were all seniors. I mean, you're talking Anderson, Bomer, Page, Eccleston. That's your top 4 scorers. That's a lot of. I'm not saying they don't still have guys there, and we've seen. Look, they lost Zach Cole, and they were able to, kind of plug and play it away. So I do like some of the talent they have there, but you lose your top 4. Levi Virch, they still have on the defensive side of the ball. He's awesome.
Ray's got a way of reloading.
He does. I would say, what's the worst they've been in the last, like?
I feel like there's one year they were below 500, but that was like pre-A10.
Like, it's been a minute. Like, and that's, I think, the like, the boom case. The last time they were 7-7 in 2019. Since then, they were 9-4 in the 2021 year, and they won 8-0 in the NEC. They won 14-4 in 2022. It made the. Oh, what do we said? St. Joe's. Oh yeah, the streak mentioned. St. Joe's hasn't lost a regular season conference game since before COVID. Like it's they've won like something nuts now. They haven't been below 500 since 2017. But again, a lot of these offensive guys have been here through all of that. Ray's
had 3 below 500 years since 2012. 2 of them were his first 2 seasons. So since 2014, he's only had 1 below 500 year.
Oh, since 2011, 11, 12, 5, 11, 7. They were 5-2 and 20, 9-4, 14-4, 10-5, 12-4. He's lost 8 conference games in the last 11 years. Yeah, that's pretty good. I would put Penn. I'll put Penn over that. Like, I'd put him at 17. Yeah, I'll say we'll put Penn 16. St. Joe's, I don't know. It's a bet on coaching, but I think it's a reasonable. I feel like it's a reasonable bet to make. I mean, they're just that's a proven track record, similar to Richmond. I mean, Richmond's, they don't kind of fall off too often. So, I mean, could it be I don't think it'll be a 2017 stuff. I don't think they're going to have a losing season. It's a 2019 where they go 500, maybe. But yeah, I mean, they do lose a lot on offense. But yeah, I think they'll probably still be in that mix. So, all right, there we go. Loitering, lurking. Penn 16, St. Joe 17, Richmond 18, Ohio State 19, North Carolina 20.
All righty. So that leads us to our pushing for the playoffs tier. We got Penn State, Towson, Yale, Michigan, and Army.
Yeah. We've also got in the tier above this.
Did I mention Georgetown?
In the tier above this, 10 through 6, just in case, we want to, finagle around, Georgetown, Duke, Denver, Cornell, and Hopkins.
I think the tiers are fine.
Hangover, right? I feel there's got to be a little bit of a hangover for Army after last year. The way it ended, there's a good amount of starters, good amount of points. If any team I could see at the bottom of this tier, I'd be pretty comfortable with Army at 15.
Yeah, I don't think Penn's better than Army, but there is going to be a retooling of sorts for Army ahead.
I mean, they lose Burek and Morin. That's tough. Morin was their best shooter. Burek been a beast. They still got Tommy Eicher, came on, was terrific. They bring Plunkett back. He might be the best mid in America. They bring Coletti back. Obviously, we know how much of a weapon he's been for them. Pilot's back. There's a lot of talent still on that roster. Now, does it all feel like it's going to line up the way it did for them, the way it should have last year? I don't think so. But I mean, look, some stuff, sports can be weird that way, and sometimes you don't expect, teams to, kind of when a team sort of makes their kind of run. I mean, Carolina's the classic example of this. The 2015 Carolina team that was, in the top 3 of the country basically all season, lost badly in the quarterfinals to Maryland. They graduated Bitter and graduated Sankey, and it was like that was it. They missed the window, and then they barely get in the tournament in 2016 and go win the thing.
We see a ton of time in sports like 2019 UVA basketball, the year after losing to 16 seed UMBC. That was supposed to be their year. Or even Jake, I know you could relate 2018 Capitals. 2016 and 2017 looked like the Caps year, and then 2018 is when they pull it off.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's Albarisi's kind of like messages. It's a new year, and there's no reason that it can't. Army can't kind of make something happen. But yeah, I think it's fair to look. Consistency at the end of the day has to you got to find a way to be consistent, and or at least you have to find a way maybe to handle expectation pressure in a way that they were not able to in 2023 when they got to. I mean, look, like there's no other way to say this. That team should have made the NCAA tournament. Like, if you said Army was going to miss the tournament if I told you March 16th when Army's 7-0, or even if I tell you on March 30th, I mean, if I told you to miss the tournament on March 30th, it would have been like, I mean, one, it still would have been after they beat Carolina. It still would have been disappointing. Like, but if I told you like, hey man, they're not even going to make the Patriot League championship. Like, I mean, that team. That's what after they beat Cuse, they're going to be favored in every game they play the rest of the year, and I think they probably were. Maybe the Carolina game is maybe the only one, but so yeah, I think 15 is fair in this regard. Like, they were still a very good team last year, in a lot of ways. Like, you can't ignore the sort of like highs they had. And again, I don't think you can ignore the talent that's on that roster. They were, but you also can't, at the end of the day, like, I do think you kind of, have to adjust for maybe is there a hangover, just kind of sort of can they handle, again, if they get back in that position, what can they, how do they handle it this time? And Pilot is back, but the defense last year for Army was not Army-like. That was a big part of it. They were in like the 30s in defensive efficiency. It wasn't what you would normally expect from an Army team. I think that'll probably be a big focus. So, yeah, Army at 15, I got no problem with.
I'm intrigued by the other bunch. I wonder how high do we want to put Towson is going to be the interesting part, because they had a spunky season last year. See, they ended up 13th at the end of the regular season in our polls. Yeah, let's discuss that bunch with Penn State, Towson, Yale, and Michigan. I think the one that we got the team with the biggest question mark out of those four might be Yale with regards to where the hell is their defense.
I think we're going to wind up probably the low people on Yale. It's what it seems like. At least I think I've been sensing some optimism. Yale top 10 around. They get Leo Johnson, Chris Lyons back. They had a lot of injuries. My argument. I don't know what, safe, maybe how you feel like. My argument would be the offense, and I made this same argument and look, I think Johnson and Lyons are terrific players. I made this argument with Leo Johnson, Chris Lyons got hurt last year. Like I said, the offense is not the problem there. The talent is not the problem. They still have Brandow. I said their offense will be completely fine. Like I'm not saying like you don't want those guys on the field. Of course you do, but trust me, like they can stomach that. And they did. They were 5th in offensive efficiency. My question was, could they fix the defense? And they did. Defensively, they finished 53rd. Honestly, it felt like it got worse than it had the previous couple of years. So yeah, I don't know. I've seen kind of some ranking. I've seen kind of people put them in towards the top 10. I can't personally commit, kind of to that until I see the defense. I mean, me and Safe talked about it, on the pod 2 weeks ago. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I can't see the case for it, but and look, Brandow might have been the best. Brandow might have been the best player, like offensive player in the country, as well. Like he was incredible, and losing him that's a big loss.
I mean, you kind of said it, Jake. It's not that you can't see it, but we have to see it. It's not impossible, and exactly right. Like offense, like it's never been a problem this last few years. Just can they get the stops needed when they against at the right moments, and it feels a little bit of a changing of the guard. The Ivy just with Princeton's way of just kind of cementing their hold on the conference. whether they're kind of expected to, or if kind of taken away from Yale, like they have at least in 2022 and maybe even last year to an extent. So,
see, I
think we may be one of the few people not to have them in top 10.
I'm the group's Andy Shea apologist. So personally, when we do our preseason polls, you might see mine with Yale be up a little bit higher than you guys, but they do have to answer those questions with that defense. And
I mean, if you want, go. Sorry, Ron, go ahead.
No, I mean, in this pecking order, though, let's discuss the other resumes. Again, Towson's your spunky mid-major, so they're going to be a little bit harder to pinpoint. And then Michigan and Penn State. That's going to be interesting with, again, that's two teams where we got some question marks out of, but also have the high potential. So that's kind of the intriguing part about this, is trying to slot them all in, because I think each team kind of has a little bit of a mystery bag that might be the reason why we're not having them in the top 10 just yet.
If you wanted to, if you wanted to have Yale ahead of Michigan, I think that's reasonable. Michigan lose some piece on the offensive end, and ultimately Michigan, as good as their runs have been in the towards the end of the season, look over the balance of the are they in this sort they do have to kind of prove it over the balance of a season, where they can kind of keep that consistency going over an entire year. Towson is kind of, I guess you could. Towson has some kind of Yale tendencies in them themselves. They score a bucket load of goals. Defensively, I tore my hair out watching that Cuse game. It's like they could have won that game. That game was on the table, I think, for them, especially the offense was playing. Just defensively, it was a mess. Towson's tricky. Just they're sort of one of those teams where you look at the way they played in their conference and relative to their competition, and by the end of the year, they were just smoking teams. They just destroyed the CAA tournament. They just they were like Delaware directly with a bug on a windshield. It was incredibly impressive, and they bring back a lot of talent. Weishar, Villa Gomez. Some of these guys. They got. I think what Nadelin's done on the the offense side of the ball, really emphasizing speed, and dodging threats is really a smart play. It feels harder and harder for teams to kind of find guys who can because defenders are getting more athletic. It's hard to find guys who can really beat their man. But if you got guys who kind of have that natural speed and burst, it's always a weapon you can work with. They do lose Nick DeMeo, put up 82 points last year. So that, but they bring back Luke Downs in goal. So Towson 14 kind of feels sort of like the best. It feels like the right kind of spot, because are they really better than any of these teams above them? I don't know, but also, kind of compared to where they are, the teams below them, they beat St. Joe's by 8 goals last year. Towards the end of the year, they again beat Delaware by 9, Drexel by 10. They lost to Hopkins, Loyola, Virginia, and Cuse. 3 of those 4 teams are quarterfinal teams. Loyola, again, that should have won that game. So again, they're sort of like that perfect, it's kind of like Delaware was sort of in that last couple of years, we're kind of clearly above the teams behind us, but are we, at that level with the teams, above us? I don't know. So I think, it's a fair spot for them. Michigan 13 feels kind of high, but
Yeah, that
I don't know.
that's like kind of the theme of this 11 to 15 range is like I don't know, Jim.
I don't know how comfortable I feel with Michigan at 13.
You think maybe Towson 13, Michigan 14?
My friend.
Yale, Penn State, Michigan feels like what this should be. I know what you're saying, Jake, maybe too high for the Wolverines, but like as Patrick Stevens noted in his way too early post, like they seem to become a perennial NCAA threat like quickly.
Yeah,
they've established that the past couple of years now that they've.
And we've been saying, like, you get in there, the more likely you are to get in there again next year. They do lose a good amount, but fourth in the Big Ten doesn't seem out of reach for them. And that's kind of where they would be right now.
Yeah, you lose Bame. Losing Bame and Tiernan is, that's, and also the face off with Wheatfeld, that had been such a, real weapon for them the last couple of years. That really had been their weapon within the Big Ten, was the way they could kind of win face-offs against teams. And you kind of, you take that off the table. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like if you're fourth in the Big Ten, are you probably 15th or so in the country? Yeah. Like, I mean, that's not, we kind of keep talking about, this sort of split between the Big Three kind of and everybody else. All right, I'll Michigan 13. Go ahead.
All right, so Michigan 13.
I don't know if I feel good about it, but it's the right kind of spot where, like, if they get rolling, you can kind of move them up, and if they start cold, you can very easily move them down. God, this is where you really start to realize how just uncertain you are of like everything next year.
Yeah, and that doesn't even get to where do we want to slot Penn State, because that's a team with a wide amount of variance heading into this season.
Well, why don't you guys go with that? You picked them to win the national championship last year.
One of our better takes. One of our best.
Oh man. I don't know. It's because you got to balance. 10. They're losing a lot of guys, but they're also bringing back a lot of guys. And, oh boy, let's digest.
Yale 10, Penn State 11, Georgetown 12.
All right, so let's have a discussion on Georgetown then.
Georgetown
losing a lot.
Yes.
But they lost a lot last year. And they brought,
True, and some encouraging, the kind of the defense. I mean, I think we played Virginia in a scrimmage, Fallball. I think, Ty Banks apparently was like the best player on the field. The freshman defender they had, long pole they got, he looks like he's going to be a, just a future stud. Anderson Moore, young as a young goalie, like he was a big time recruit. It went up and down, was kind of ran, sort of. He had some big games. Towards the end there, against in the first round game against Penn State, he made some big saves. The second half against Villanova in the Big East Championship, he played really well. He also had some games where he was, really like his debut against Loyola. Only 8 saves. Notre Dame gave me struggle the playoff game, but that's what it is. but also like, look, if you're a freshman goalie who can start, I mean, a freshman goalie who can start every game and get through it, like, and a freshman goalie who starts every game and you leave the year feeling like, okay, like I think we got a guy, that really can be a superpower. It's not absolute. We'll get to Virginia, who has a goalie who had started every game of his career up until the national semifinal. But like. So goalies are goalies, but like if you have a goalie who can, you can ride it, as a young guy. So you can kind of start to see how Georgetown's like sort of piecing together what they had. Kind of when they started making their ascendancy. Where you had Owen McElroy in goal, coming through as a young stud, and he went on to was a 2-time goalie of the year. You had Gibby Smith at the defensive end of the field, and so with Banks and Moore back there, it feels like okay, like Georgetown's kind of getting back to kind of their roots a little bit on the that end of the field. They were by the end of the season, they were 18th in adjusted defensive efficiency, but they played their a lot of their best lacrosse kind of as the season went along. So especially like my April, 22.6% adjusted defensive efficiency. They played great against Penn State in the second half of the game, really shut them down. I think Warren had a lot of fun trying to, just kind of getting them back to, the way they used to playing. They lost a lot offensively. Yes. It feels like one of those things. Were they a great offensive team last year? Like they were 6th in adjusted offensive efficiency, and I think they did find ways to make it. Like by the end of the year, they did. Like they put up numbers mainly in Big East play, but I mean, I guess you could say they, the tournament. I guess you could say they played well, like considering they didn't win faceoffs. The faceoff injury kind of situation hurt them. Aiden Carroll was great. I don't know. It had a weird, like Bundy never really kind of got, going. I don't know. I think, I think they'll be 10 feels right. Doesn't like they're going to be good because they're always good. Are they going to be great? I don't know. Like that doesn't, doesn't quite feel like it. But by the end of the season, they seem to find their way to win that Big East tournament. And they've been in the quarterfinals pretty often now. So this is basically their range, like the question with them is not like, this isn't really the question with them. The question is like, can they get, to the, the richer end of the, can they get to the deeper end of the neighborhood, and I don't know about that, but if you ask me, like, is Georgetown going to choke some teams out defensively and, win the Big East and be in the 8th, like be the last team that has a home game? Yeah, that's kind of just what Georgetown does, So I don't got a problem with them around like 10. I think that feels, that feels fair.
So where do we want to slot Georgetown, Penn State, Yale?
Yeah.
Is there anyone?
I would go Georgetown 10, Yale 11, Penn State 12.
I think that's fair.
How about Denver?
So I think that's sustainable what they did last year and into this year. Like I think you could slot them 9.
Lose a lot defensively from a team that wrote its their identity was their defense. I thought their offense. I thought they got a lot out of the right pieces. Better than the sum of their parts offensively is how I would. They were like 20th in adjusted offensive efficiency. Like, I thought they maximized their offensive personnel. But they hung their hat on their defense and Stathakis winning faceoffs. You lose Stathakis. Now, granted, Denver always seems to have a faceoff guy. But I guess, 9th, yeah, like, that's, I don't know. I think that defense has got to hang on. Like, something's got to. Ranking them outside the top 10 feels disrespectful. I fully acknowledge that. I'm also just kind of looking at them. If that defense struggles, or if their defense has a fall off, where are they making it up? Is kind of where I'm sort of wondering. Can they do it on the offensive side of the ball? I'm not sure.
But I think also to keep in consideration with who's directly behind them, is it as big of a loss as what Georgetown has to replace? And even if they have to replace guys on defense, is it as much of a liability as Yale's?
No, it's not. But I also don't know that they have Yale's offense. Like, Yale, at least, I know Yale's going to score goals. And that's going to keep Yale. That's going to get Yale in a lot of games. I also think Yale, if Machado Rodriguez is healthy, has a real, weapon there. And listen, to be fair, this is how you start talking yourselves to Yale in the top 10. Like, as we just kind of said it. Look, Milwaukee, he was a youngster, kind of showed flashes. Manning, Kelly, I think they bring Cleveland back in goal. Maybe you could say that's a upgrade over. That's a notch ahead. He was pretty solid. Advantage over Paquette maybe. Poor Paquette has to play, but has had to just the guy gets shelled with shots every game. Yeah, this 9 through. This is a cluster, really. I don't. Honestly, you can go wherever you want.
We'll put Denver at 9 then.
Yeah. If you
I think it's a respectable place to put them, given.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah, you give them a little bit of a gift for making the Final Four as well, so you show some respect that way as well. I know you don't always like to hang your hat on last year's results too much, but I think that helps push them ahead of Georgetown. Because Denver did it. Georgetown famously did not.
Certainly. Yeah.
All right, so Denver at 9. Now, our other teams in the category for fitting for Foxborough, which, again, my trip to Boston confirmed my suspicions that Foxborough is really an exurb of Providence, not Boston. So hope we have all these great shots of the Providence skyline during the Final Four. So Hopkins, Cornell, and Duke for 6 through 8. I kind of want to lean Duke at 8. But at the same token, Cornell, like, both teams are losing a lot of top-end talent, but Duke's underclassmen reloads a bit better than Cornell's, but at the same token, Duke's diminishing returns enters into the conversation, so...
Cornell's got Crosse back.
They do have he does have Crosse back.
You got Firth, a freshman, Goldstein, a freshman. You lose some, Long, who felt like he played there with Max Siebold. AJ Nikolic.
He's coming back too, right?
Is Long coming back?
That's the way Stevens has it. Is the last one for Kurtz, Long, and Hugh Kelda.
He's still there?
I thought the Ivy League eligibility is Bucci out of this school after 4 years. Unless, then again, that's right. After COVID, we all thought that, and then in reality, it was just Princeton University, and nobody else follows that rule.
Yes, Michael Long is back.
Oh my God! So yeah, Duke at 8 then sounds right because Cornell's not losing as much as I thought they would be.
Cornell's losing like 5 points. Yeah, they lose
I know they were returning Kurtz, but I figured they were losing other guys. But then you're telling me that, and I'm like,
no.
Alrighty then. So
Cornell, honestly, I at first when I was putting this together, I had Cornell in the top 5 tier, and then I'm like they got the defense is too. I can't they got stopped back. The defense is too much of a question mark for me. I think, but it was young. Offensively, man, they're gonna score a boatload of goals. They're gonna score so many goals. Yeah, I think Duke has to be 8 just on the. Hopkins loses, certainly their fair share of, pieces as well. But you can. There is talent on the. I think I can still. With Hopkins, I think defensively, there's still a lot of talent back there, which has been a, sort of boon for that team. And Hopkins also, Hopkins played a lot of guys. They spread the wealth around. There's a lot of guys. There's still guys there with playing experience. Duke, look, you lose O'Neal, Zawada, Williams. Duke brings back McAdory, Johnston, Sloat, and then you get to, I don't know, and then, Duke, the losses are, listen,
you lost Brennan O'Neal.
Yes, but Brower as well.
Yeah, and that's not including everybody else they lost.
You lose your best defender, your number one faceoff guy, your starting attackman. Jameson's back in goal. That's good. And Duke, I think there's also just a larger existential question of, okay, well, no one thinks that you've been able to achieve what you have the last couple of years because of I'm trying to not if you ask people how is Duke, what's the if you made a pie chart out of and what's contributing to Duke's success, a disproportionate amount of that would just be the talent. They've had Brennan O'Neal and all these guys the last 4 years. Okay, well now they don't. And now listen, maybe can like Dino's had some years before where he's lost just everybody, and somehow he just gets in the lab and like it seems to rejuvenate him. Maybe that's the case this year. And obviously they still got a bunch of incoming guys. Maybe Dino gets rejuvenated by like he's gotta work harder this year. But I think the uncertainty with Duke is very high. Yeah, I think this one's a little more easy. I think it's Duke 8, Hopkins 7, Cornell 6. I think you can make an argument. If you want to buy high this year, Cornell is the team to buy high on, I think. Do they have betting odds though?
I can't see because New York State, you can't bet on Cornell.
Like, me and safe both.
So Cornell 6, Hopkins 7, Duke 8.
That's what I would go with. Is there anything? I mean, unless we want to maybe move someone.
So let's see our top 5. So that'll leave us with any combination of Princeton, Maryland, Virginia, Syracuse, Notre Dame.
I don't think we have any betting odds yet for.
Oh, okay, for next year.
But I think Cornell is a team to. If you want to buy high, I'm not. Look, I still have questions, but there is a case there for the Big Red, I think. And look, it is a team that has been to Memorial Day with pieces that are still on that team.
By the way, shout out in the chat, Drew Brennan, Notre Dame lacrosse beat writer and podcast host. He thanks us for doing the show, and he loves our college lacrosse talk. Thank you, Drew, for joining along. Yeah. Thanks for your work as well on the Notre Dame beat, and glad that you joined us on this Friday night with us. So really appreciate it.
So Duke 8, Hopkins 7. All right, so that's what we got so far. If you think we're crazy, you can yell at us. If you think we're on the money, you can like and subscribe the video. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. Hit the bell for the alerts, the notifications. Share with your friends. So our top 5 combination.
Is there anybody we want to move? Is there anybody we want to move out of this for? I guess Cornell maybe.
See, the issue is with Maryland and Virginia. I think it's proven at this point you can never ever bet. I learned my lesson the hard way last May. Never bet against Tillman. Never bet against Tiffany. Now, I guess you could make a case maybe flip-flopping Virginia and Cornell because Virginia the past couple of years hasn't exactly been the best regular season team. They've kind of evolved into one of these teams that, lurk around the back end of the top 10 and then pounce in May. So you could maybe make an argument there. But at the same token...
Could say the same thing with UVA as we said with Duke, just the sheer scale of the loss from last year's team and just the mainstays that were on that team that are no longer there. I could be talking to Cornell number 5 and UVA 6.
Princeton
still.
See, I mean, that's the thing, though, is that Princeton was. They're kind of like last year's Syracuse team, but on steroids, where they're a step ahead of where Syracuse was on the progression scale.
What were you saying, Jake?
No, sorry. I think it's a fair question. Like, what's really the difference between Cornell and Princeton?
Nothing. That's why I think they're right next to each other.
Princeton's youth might be the difference maker, and Princeton being ahead of Cornell last year with younger players might be the
safe was at that game.
It was like seeing a murder.
You guys want to see a dead body?
I was talking about end of the year.
Yes, you're right. But also, like, the way the Ivy, played out there. I mean, Cornell was the best team in the Ivy for
It was just circumstance. That's why Cornell didn't make the tournament. Just like
they got like two-stepped. Like
yeah, it was. Well, then we were saying like plane crashes, like 19 things have to happen all at the same time. Like, that's what happened. And they were just found themselves on the outside, just like, what just happened here? Like,
this happens to them a lot. if Cornell fans like,
between Cornell lacrosse and Cornell hockey, it gets really cursed there in Ithaca when it comes to these things.
If Cornell fans wanted to like, file
a lawsuit.
I don't know, like, if they got like really into conspiracy theories, I wouldn't blame them necessarily.
Yeah, they're two bread and butter sports. They get screwed so many times.
It's not like, I mean, on the one hand, it's like, there's always an there's always like an argument, which I guess gets the thing. It's like just because we're just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get me.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, there's always an argument, but on the other hand, it's like the year that what is it, 2019, the year that like Hopkins won those 2 games over Maryland, and like so Hopkins had been over Maryland, but then Maryland kind of had the argument over Cornell, and then Hopkins lost by like 8 goals to Notre Dame in the first round. And then Cornell beat Notre Dame at the end of the year. Like, yeah. So, no, Princeton's youth certainly could be a argument that like they're the ascending team. On the other hand, with Cornell, you could be like, look, Kirsten Long, those guys, like they've been to championship weekend.
Yeah. Drew Brennan also said Cornell's offense has them in the top 3 for him.
Yeah. Their offense is freaking like they just. I mean, where were they in? They were in the top 5 or something. But offense, they were 3rd adjusted offensive efficiency. There you go. Now the concerning obviously would be, their defense. I think my camera has crapped out, by the way, so I might just be.
Yes, it has. So sorry. We'll.
I think it might be audio only for the remainder of this portion.
We'll have to. Shall I get the picture of you in the Caps jersey?
Yeah, sure, you can do that.
Sounds good. We will.
So, but yeah, Cornell's offense is like they like the I mean they can rip the net up. Cornell and Princeton both kind of have the, I guess, negative point, you could argue, possessions. Like neither of them really had the ball a lot a year ago. They're kind of iffy on faceoffs. So I think Virginia, y'all can kind of vibe with me here. I think Virginia is either going to
Mm. Jeez. Oh, jeez. One sec. I think I got an even better one that I could do this with. 1 second. I'll make it even more Fox Newsy. Sorry. Maybe Virginia. Um, Hold off on 1 sec with the Jake Camera one. I am going to make it, yes, even more Fox Newsy. So, safe, please turn your attention to YouTube in a second. I don't know if Jake sees it yet or not, but oh, best Reddit meme is the live Tucker reaction, and you just do it with whatever you want it to. Yeah, yeah. Camera off. All right. So now that I completely sidetracked everything with this, that's a big one. So do we want to put, with that being said, because this goalie situation can become a big mess. Virginia at 6. Or have we just talked ourselves putting Cornell at 4? It is Lars. Yeah, I think once we get these schedules out, I think you could map this out a little bit clearer. Because I think that's going to depend on like who each of them are going to play non-conference. Kind of see where the beginning of the season, like for Cornell, are they going to, they usually have been playing Denver lately. Do they add another big non-con game in the mix somewhere there? Princeton, now that they're more matured, are they going to go back to scheduling aggressively? Maybe get Syracuse back on the schedule this year, or um, bring back the Maryland game. You know, so that's going to be interesting with that. Yeah, in 3 days, so to Penn. Yeah, home return trip. Yeah, I don't think Carolina and Duke are going up to play Penn and Princeton back to back on a weekend in February. Ooh, let me play around then. Yeah, let me fix that real quick. Sorry, guys. Okay, try it now. Yeah, it should work now. Might have been an issue with
Hopefully,
Jake's camera. Now we're good.
Yeah.
Now we're good.
We're all good?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the heads up, guys.
Awesome. I just put my 2 thumbs up, even though nobody can see me.
Live Jake reaction.
Can you hear me, folks? Live on WFN Radio. It's Jake from Baltimore.
So if there was anything that was missing, it'll be up on the podcast version. So again, thanks.
All right, I'll run that again, and for the podcast folks. So yeah, like, what are we uncertain about, or certain about? I'm certain that Notre Dame's gonna be really good. I am certain that Maryland's gonna be in the mix. I am certain that Syracuse is going to be really good. I don't know if Syracuse is going to win the national title. I don't know if Syracuse is going to make the Final Four. I think Syracuse has Ryan, you mentioned the word variance earlier. I think Syracuse might have the smallest variance of any team in the country this year. It's really hard for me to see a world where Syracuse isn't like a quarterfinal team.
Yeah, it's not. I don't see a 2021 situation where the bottom completely falls out and derail the progress of the previous season.
Syracuse feels like the floor is like the quarterfinal. Now, the flip side of that mean the ceiling might be the Final Four. It might be, I don't know. The range of possibilities with them doesn't feel particularly wide. Does that mean do I think they're going to win the national title? They could. I'm not I don't want to say I don't think Syracuse can. No, Syracuse could win the national championship. I'm just saying I'm not certain that they are a contender. What I am certain about is I just cannot see them being just they're not. I don't. Syracuse having a bad year just doesn't seem concealed to me. They got experience. They got returning talent. They're pretty balanced across the board. They have weaknesses. Short stick to midi defense. I point out has kind of been a weakness for them. Goalie kind of, where do you go now in the future? And
you do have to, and remember the Princeton guys have now gone.
Yeah,
gotta replace that.
The other ones that I felt sort of certain about Virginia. I'm not certain, but I feel pretty good they'll still be solid. And I think Hopkins will. I don't think Hopkins will have a big fall off. I also I don't think I'm ranking in the top 5, but I don't think they'll have a big fall off. But again, I'm less certain about that. Everything else, look, dude, we got Duke 8. You want to tell me Duke wins the national title? Danowski's done some crazy things, You want to tell me that Cornell's defense just is a sieve and it's kind of like last year? Sure. We just talked ourselves into moving Cornell up to 4, but yeah. So these 3 are I feel most kind of, they're the only 3 I feel to have any sort of degree of certainty with. I think Notre Dame is going to be very, very good. And, I think Maryland is going to be in the mix come the end of the year because it's Maryland. And I do think they'll have a better team than this past year. And I think Syracuse is, going to be fighting for, in this. Syracuse I think will start the year at the number 2 spot in the polls, and I don't know that they'll fall out of the top 10 at any point. But maybe they settle at 5 to 10 the year. I don't know. But there you go. That was my,
we could continue the conversation, but I think we were all in agreement. 1 Notre Dame, 2 Syracuse, 3 Maryland.
I'd go Terps too.
Maryland's the one that's kind of interesting to thread the needle because I think out of the 3 they got to replace some guys, but then at the same token you got Tillman's pedigree. of squeezing every ounce out of that Maryland team, that they've got the high ceiling. And I mean, their ceiling's always a national title. So
they have to replace, I mean, you could argue in terms of consequential losses, Weirman and Zappatello are, I mean, you could argue Weirman is like, what, maybe the most consequential loss in the country? I mean, Luke Weirman in the tournament was like, he gave Maryland Maryland was never beating Notre Dame. Like, that was never going to happen. But Luke Weirman won 71% of the faceoffs against Will Lynch in the championship. Like, Luke Weirman gave Maryland every single chance to win, like, the whole thing. He would have, if Notre Dame had played, just like laid an egg, or if, which wasn't going to happen, but like, if it was a different, a Notre Dame team that's just like 10% less good and Maryland somehow had won, Luke Weirman would have been the most outstanding player of the tournament. I mean, he was just, it was preposterous what he did for them. So, and Zappatello is, a rock. Now, I still think, like they brought in, they went and did a lot of work in the portal, which is interesting. Tillman's very, he's very meticulous with the roster, and with the portal. He doesn't do anything, he didn't add guys like out of like desperation. Like they didn't go kind of crazy in the portal the last couple of years. They added a lot this year. What that tells me is he thinks he's got a team that can really go for it this year. Like he's making moves. They brought in Bryce Ford from Fairfield. They brought in Keegan from I'm blanking on in the America East. Binghamton. So I think, they really feel like they've got a chance to, kind of go for it and, be in, compete for the title this year. It's tricky. Like those two losses are substantial. Everything else, I feel like they can kind of survive. Because like offensively, there's some pieces like, Molliver transferred out to Duke. Owen Murphy left. But overall, like the guys they needed to keep offensively and the guys they can build around are there. I thought they kind of figured it out towards the end of the year with Spanos moving to attack and Urksa at midfield. And you've got, again, like they're bringing in guys, Bryce Ford from Fairfield is a really strong player. I mean, these guys who can these guys, these guys who can, make it happen in the Big Ten. It's a different level up. We'll see. And they also have some really, probably their best incoming recruiting class on the offensive side of the ball in a long time. With, Spencer Ford coming in, Johnny Gardner, like there's some, big time. Spencer Ford is like, feels like sort of just a, classic kind of Maryland attackman. Will they contribute right away? We'll see. Defensively, I think they'll probably wind up being, losing Zap is tough, but like they got, I think the guys they got the back in there. Burles is, really strong. Schaller came on real solid towards the end of the end of the year. They've got a good, depth built up to bring in Peter Like from another, big time coming recruit, and they got McNaney just with loads and loads of experience in goal. So I think overall their roster is pretty well, balanced. Yeah, Cuse. It's hard because ultimately, I guess it depends on how much you. If you're ranking Maryland 2, I think it's a case of just you're uncertain. Like, I don't know, is Maryland better set than Cornell? I don't really know, but I'll probably bet on Maryland. Is Maryland better set than Virginia? I don't know, but I'll probably bet on Maryland. It's, in an uncertain environment, you kind of just ride with the certain hand. It's like, are they really a number 2 team? I don't know. They're probably, in the last couple of years, this sort of team you'd look at, you'd rank 6th or 7th or 8th. But 3 through 8, you maybe could all rank, in that kind of range together. Whereas it's with Q's, how certain do you feel? Q's, I look at the offense, and Spallina is, he's going to give you 80-some points again. Hiltz is, been around the block a bunch. After that, you do got a lot of, guys, Leo Thompson, you got a lot of, solid pieces at the midfield. On the defensive side of the ball, can you kind of find yourself a real lockdown kind of number 1 guy? There's, guys who have, shown flashes of, kind of real bright spots. Duan, Figueres, have kind of flashed as potential studs, but they haven't really for kind of had a real good run of play. In goal, what do you do? Will Mark was up and down the last couple years, or not? Pardon me, a couple years. The kind of sort of couple games at the end of the year. I think he kind of gave Q's some Q's fans some sort of heart-stopping moments. But look, you got to give him credit. He really stabilized the position after, they had question marks after Drake Porter left. Do you go to the, they were kind of rumored around some guys in the portal they didn't get. Do you, Jimmy McCool, the younger, former 5-star. What do you do at face-off? Mason Cone came in, did big for them. Coming out tough. Now he's, out there. So to me, there's questions around Cuse enough to where I might go just, I feel, uncertain that I go Maryland 2, Cuse 3. But if you feel more optimistic about Cuse with the returning pieces on offense, and you think the defensive guys can take a step, and you think maybe they can plug those holes at goalie and face-off, then sure, yeah, I think you're going to make Syracuse number 2.
Have we talked ourselves into putting Cornell number 2 is now the question.
No. That's great.
Safe.
Upstate New
Yeah,
York.
let's have your thoughts.
I'm good with that. Let's do Cuse 2. Give Upstate New York its time to shine. So
okay, so Maryland 3. And Syracuse 2. That'll make Notre Dame start off at number 1. So I guess with Notre Dame, they're at number 1. They lose a lot of guys, but they also bring back a lot of guys, which is kind of an interesting situation they're in. You lose a Kavanaugh, but keep a Kavanaugh.
They got the drive for 3.
Yeah, it has not been done since 96 through 98 Princeton. We've had some close calls, but no dice since then.
Listen, man,
do we compared to where 2010 Syracuse and 2015 Duke were heading into the season, where would you stack them? I guess technically 2022 Virginia, when you consider they had back-to-back championships but non-consecutive because of the COVID year with 19 and 21.
I think they're closer to the 2015 Duke end than the 2011 Syracuse. Neither team made the Final Four, but the I would say they're Duke in my opinion. I don't know how y'all feel.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Any year to oh no, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say quickly. If any year to have this type of year, not a fall off, but having to replace this is the year where everybody else. I mean, Cornell aside and Cuse as well.
Because
noted, but
because really outside Cornell, Syracuse, Princeton, everyone's in the same position of having to reload. And even though Notre Dame has to reload, they still got a lot of key cogs from what's won them back-to-back titles still in the mix. So it's interesting because it's a refresh. But I think of it kind of like on the women's end, like, those Maryland teams or Northwestern teams or now Boston College teams where you're losing a lot of star players, but there's still so much that contributors still around that, and combine that with the landscape in general. Like I think in a normal year, you're probably looking at them as a back end of the top five type of team. But because everyone else is in that same position, the whole rest of the ACC outside of Syracuse is in the same position of losing a big senior class. Majority of the Big Ten's in the same position. And even your top Big East schools or top Patriot League schools are in that same position. Really, the only exception to that is the top of the Ivy League. So when you look at the national landscape, Notre Dame's in okay shape because everyone else lost huge senior classes.
They're in the pit for new tires with everybody else. So.
Yeah, the caution flag came out and everyone's pitting now to get their tires and fuel. It's a good analogy there, Steve.
Oh, we asked when we did the pod with Chris Wojcik, like, is like worse kind of like this? They're going for 3 in a row, but it's also like it's really in some ways like a new team, So like it's the Kavanaughs aren't going for 3 in a row, like that, like is there less pressure in a sense maybe because like it's kind of like you've done 2 in a row and now it's like this own team is trying to win the title themselves,
it's not like having the same cast of characters that 2010 Cuse team did.
Yes, and that's why like I would put like I think if you're asking like what team was in a better position potentially to win 3-0, like 2011 Cuse is probably the closest thing you're ever going to find because that team brought back like 2010 Cuse had Cody Jamison was still there. Stephen Keogh was still there. Jeremy Thompson, Jovan Miller were juniors. The real was on the defense side. Joe White was a junior. And they brought in some, they had some freshmen on that. John Lade was a junior on that team. John Galloway was a junior. So the 2010 Cuse team was like, that 4-year Cuse run, they won 2 titles, and in some ways I feel like, because of how 2010 and 2011 ended, it kind of felt like they left meat on the bone for that 2011 Cuse senior class. But like, and so we asked, Wojcik, like, is it less pressure maybe because it's like, or is it more because like they're coming in with such, kind of like what Duke had with that 2015 Duke crew when those guys came in. They had to kind of carry, like the burden in a way of like, following what those guys had established. And that 2015 Duke, incoming group had a lot of, heady names as freshmen, guys like Justin Gutterding, and on the defensive side of the ball, Greg Pelton, and and then eventually even like 2016 guys will follow like Van Raphorst and so on and so forth. So it was a kind of interesting mix they had there. Duke you can kind of say maybe they struggled with it a bit because Duke didn't make the Duke group, the freshmen that came in after, and kind of the young guys, like they didn't make a Final Four for 3 years. It did feel kind of like the pressure maybe got to them a bit, and Wojcicki's kind of response was who knows, like you won't know until you get into the season, and you won't know how they respond until they're in game action. And that was kind of what Corrigan mentioned to you, Safe, when you asked him, and after the semifinal game, it's like there probably will be a hangover of some kind. How and listen, if that was Notre Dame's hangover last year, it was the they should get drunk every day. Like, I mean, that's one heck of a I mean, goodness, that was one game, and overtime. So,
that's great.
Yeah, like they're in a great spot. Like they're going to start the year at number 1. How long will they stay there? Who knows? Does it really matter? Probably not. Like they have the experience on their side now. They're in the top floor of the penthouse now with the other the other big dogs. And they will feel more than comfortable, I think, regardless of where they kind of shake out. But yeah, I think your point is correctly. It's a good year to it's not a bad year to replace a lot. Like, because when everyone loses a lot, what does losing a lot really mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we lose a lot. All right, what really matters is how good are you at plugging in the new pieces? And to a degree, that always is the case, but it's like you could be great at plugging in new pieces the last couple of years. When those ACC teams and some of the others are playing, fifth-year seniors every year, like the fifth-year senior class we saw the past year with like Schellenberger and Cormier, those guys, UVA, and what Notre Dame had with Pat Cav and Entenmann and so on, and even Duke, maybe underachieved a bit, had those guys. Like, you're just never going to see that again. So it's like, you could be great at bringing in new blood, but like, it doesn't matter. If your new blood's 19 years old, they're playing 24-year-olds who play college lacrosse, like played friggin', 120 college lacrosse games, This year really is like, who's, like everybody kind of starts the year in the same spot, and like, we're going to, somebody's going to fire the gun and we're going to see how it plays out. And there are teams in better position. But it's not like, not by that much, so, but yeah, I think Notre Dame certainly, and it's not just, they've won the title the last 2 years. I'm like, yeah, like they still bring back, like, Chris Kavanaugh's certainly like first team All-American level kind of guy. Sean Light on the defensive end, Gargie's a first team All-American level guy. Faison, midfield. They got other guys on the defensive side. Like, they can kind of probably lean on their defense, kind of in a classic Notre Dame sort of way. Will Lynch, like, dude, that's a pretty good core of your team right there. Like, go in front of with, Light, Lynch, Faison, and Chris Cat. Like, it's arguably 4 first-team All-Americans. So, like, it's not as if just you're kind of ranking them number 1 because they won it first, they won the last years.
Losing Entenmann's impactful, but I think, they may be able to there's somebody that we don't know. It's like I really feel like they're going to be able to kind of overcome that loss, especially because like I think it was a legendary player for them, but I think you can make an argument that Enderman maybe not as sharp towards the end as it was at the beginning, so it may not be that big of a hole. I think it was more of a leader aspect, and
Sure.
probably his presence in the locker room type thing is going to be just as impactful as his loss on the field. But like, they really do have something. Like I always use that above the rim little line with Tupac, where he's like,
got juice.
And no more, I'm the one. That's where he screams at his brother. But they make. I think Notre Dame has the juice right now.
And somebody will be. I mean, that's gonna be tough. I mean, look again. It's the guy's been playing goalie there for 5 years now, but listen, if you're telling me and look, they're recruiting again. We talk about only seems to have gotten better, in the last. They just keep bragging it up. In terms of goalie, I guess is the one you kind of who's next in line. I think Richie Ardelli was a big time recruit in his class. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was
so Drew was saying Drew was saying in the chat too. Notre Dame has the following that could be preseason first team All-American: Light Lynch, Donovan, Ramsey, Kavanaugh, and that doesn't include Taylor, Faison, Bushenkel, Angrick, and Matt Jeffrey.
Yeah, Jeffrey's gonna be a stud. I forgot about Jake Taylor, who has seemingly been in school as long as the Jake Taylor from Major League was been around. I don't know. At a certain point, with Notre Dame, it's like on certain. There's certain teams with certain positions where it's like Notre Dame and Maryland with defense and goalie. There's somebody there, I don't even think Brian Rupel got called into the bullpen in Maryland last year, and within 2 weeks, what is it? Saved a three one-on-one shots with his dick against Virginia, and I think now he's at Virginia. Did he transfer? No, I don't think. I feel like he got Zeke in the portal. No, I don't know. Guys just pop up there. So who could say? It's just another Virginia, for example. Virginia will eventually find a guy, on offense. Will it happen? Will they replace Schellenberger, this year? Probably not. Will they find a replacement? Yeah. Virginia just an assembly line of these guys, Duke, for a long time, ex-attackman. It's they just found guys, so yeah, don't worry about Notre Dame and goaltending, or again, Anthony's a big loss, but if that's the it's different to if that's the worry, I will be all right, it's different. It's we're worried about if you were worried about replacing Pat and Chris Cav, it'd be okay, yeah, I think Jeffrey will be fantastic, but sure, being a true freshman attacking is really hard. So
yeah. Would you rather be a UVA or Duke fan having to replace Connor or Brennan, or Notre Dame fan having to replace that?
Exactly. It's that's actually a good question. Replacing Schellenberger O'Neal, which is it's actually a good question. I don't know.
Maybe one for the Twitter poll.
Millen, you guys got Millen. You guys got more guys and the younger Millen looks like a superstar in the making. But UVA feels like more horses in the back. But On the other hand, I think Schellenberg, I think I did everything. He just did everything for that team. So, yeah, that's interesting.
It's a good question, but definitely a great poll. I love it. Looking at it now.
All righty, so that'll be just about it. Any other final thoughts? I will hit the Command S to save the file.
Locked in.
Export as PNG.
Thanks for joining us, folks. I'll have to do this again soon.
Yes, but thank you. Yes.
Do it live. I'll have a camera next time. Well, I mean, look, I did have it this time for,
most of it, but we did get the live Jake reaction, and apologies.
Live Jake reaction.
Yeah, apologies for the lack of audio for a little bit in the middle. Just a little bit of bugs with having to play around with getting something in for his camera. I accidentally shut off the audio for a little bit, it looked like, but all's well that ends well. All right, so ways to subscribe, of course, subscribe on our YouTube page, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to the Crosse Commission podcast, and we'll be at it. You can follow us on Twitter at college_Crosse.
Yeah, there you go. At college_Crosse. Go there. Hit subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like this video.
Yes, smash that like button.
Yes.
Don't smash that dislike button for the muted parts. Yeah, subscribe. And
I like those videos where the little cats were like this. The cat's like hiding, and they're like, "This is who you're being mean to." Or like that, we should use that picture of like, "This is who you're disliking." Just. But I'm going to see the Portal this weekend, Ryan. I'll wave to the fam in Dublin.
All right, sounds good to me. Nothing lewd to make them take it out again.
No, of course not.
He's gonna wear that combo Knicks Mets
Yankees. Yeah. Yankees leading 2-1 in the bottom of the 7th. Yeah. By the way, next Thursday I'm spending real American dollars going to a Jets game.
Are you okay, Ryan? Is there anything you want to talk about?
Going home.
Is there anything you want to,
Are you the new fire marshal guy? The guy who's going to be
fireman Ed. Yes, I'm the new fireman Ed. They're phasing him out. In comes Educator Ryan. I wear a sweater vest.
That's what I was going to say.
A green sweater vest.
With a makeshift blackboard that says like different things.
Yes. J-E-T.
Jesus. Run the ball.
But otherwise, yes, thank you so much for spending a Friday night or for spending your time listening to the podcast. As always, stay hydrated.
Thank you, Lance President.
See you out there.